Okay. Yeah. So January 10th? 10th. January 10th, 2022. This is on the set of the Fate Protects Fools episode. And the like we did with the bridge sets, we're gonna do the Fate Protects Fools wedding scene, and then the minute or so of them returning at the end of the series, all in one tape. So this technically is not making of. I guess I will pause this one though, because it is kinda. But yeah, there's not a lot here. So the wedding set, several of the characters returning, thus writing off the ending of last season as, oh, by the way, they didn't really die. Q brought them right back. Well, several months later. But yes. Anyway, so yeah. So let's pause and then start. This is where in the wedding scene, the footage on this set ends. It ends because they've been transported somewhere else and they go to the house. So let's cut to a shot of this. So this is still part of it. Yeah, so yeah. Okay, this scene will be page 55 of Fate Protects Fools Part 2. Very brief scene when they're back on the wedding planet. And we're just going to film this here on this set and then do all the other stuff. So, I just watched the dailies. And there's a few pickups we need to do right now, so we don't need to do them later. Pickups, like, from the very beginning of the thing. It's not that the Bashir and Kira scene doesn't work focus-wise. It's that it doesn't work scene-wise. So there's that scene with the son and the talking. So you see them in the background, and that's fine. But that's not what's wrong with it. What's wrong with it is their placement and how they're responding to things. They come in when we see them, and it looks weird that they're just sort of floating way far away from where the bridal party is, and it just looks strange. Like why aren't they facing each other in the bridal party scene? I think I want to actually get these guys out of the shot just to break the fourth wall, because otherwise everyone's focused on their legs and not the men in the shot. So, yeah. Their reaction to them being there kind of works, but I want to convey that they're not actually literally standing right over there. So, they're actually over here. And, yeah, so, set that up. This is going to be the Klingon time ship scene. Considering it's a bird of prey that just looks like one, it's sort of a time ship. So inside it kind of doesn't. Kind of does, a little bit. But we can only show it from just this far and this far. So let's do the scene and see what it looks like. So yeah, we have our time ship bridge here. And it's a time Klingon ship, so it doesn't look like a regular Klingon ship. It's fine. If it has to be born and bring Jack straight away, it's fine. Och, even though that doesn't make any sense, that's not even Scottish. I don't know what that is, actually. Och. If you're talking about bin jacks, you're probably talking about getting drunk. No, I don't. You goofball, you don't need any Scotch whiskey. Strange enough as it is. No getting drunk for the year, laddie. Right. Alright, this is a wee bit of making of here. Now we have our heroes. Fate Protects Fools 1 and 2. Essentially went in here making of, attempt to do the sort of a rehearsal of the wedding thing. Well, it was fine. Well, some of it was fine. So we reshot the other stuff and made it the official space wedding scene. Fate Protects Fools Part 2 was them getting back and then meeting the Klingon ship. The Klingon time ship. So we decided, well, I'll just shoot that too. Ship it. I think the ship footage actually works, so we'll go with it. If you decide to redo it later, we'll completely redo it later. But I think it works. It works because it's a time ship. It's not. It's a bird of prey that it only looks like a bird of prey. It's a time ship. Yeah. But yes. So now they have possession of a time ship. They could go and rescue Discovery now. They won't. Yeah, and the rumor has it that the other show, Prodigy, is a time travel story because the Chakotay thing doesn't match up, which is funny. Not this one though. This one sort of is, but it's sort of the Q is messing with the universe and the Cillians. So yeah, there's time travel, but it's not. It's time travel to the future and then back to where they were. So it's not really the past. They're not affecting the 2403 or whatever by going to 3190. It's not changing anything by going 700 some years later in the story. But it is interesting because they get to do the thing. So this is a complete rewrite of the original Fallen Ones done as a Star Trek story from the novel. It's been boiled down to just the commentary. Very little of Colafito, which has changed to Vita Cola, is even part of this, if anything at all. It's mainly the commenters who, and of course the part that we shot right here was the added stuff, which was the beginning and the end, the bookends, that bookend. So they're on nepotisme the whole time. And to them, it was only 7 hours. So, yeah. So it's a real time. And it'll have all kinds of interesting little things in it. Gags and things. Different religious groups are given different names, so you can't tell who they are. You kind of can. Different. Mainly, they changed them into sort of cultic groups, like the Valley Christian Religious. Ooh, what's that? Or the Churchers or something else. The Remel, the Knights of Space instead of the Knights Templar, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of goofy name changes. Yeah, there's Bible references. Kind of crazy. But yeah, we'll see what this does. Because the actual Colavito blog I think he's Catholic, so he's gonna have like stuff about Catholic. So yeah, but yeah, so his commentaries some of them might be. Most of them are atheists, it would appear. Some are anti-Semites, and they're an asshole. And he later in the blog he closed down some of the comments. Not all of them, though. The whole rant thing was filmed first, though. We did the rant thing last year. A version of it changed it considerably. So it's not his anymore. It's changed considerably. It's the comments. It's not his. But yeah, we will give him a credit for these stories in the credits, saying like based on something by Jason Colavito, based on this blog, based on the story. But yeah, ultimately, Fate Protects Fools 2 is Silly Kelly. Yeah. That's what's right here. That's what I keep looking at. This is 2. Yeah, so I went back and redid stuff that I just did and fixed the elements of it that were off. Mostly because it's been like 2 months and a little rusty. So, doing the characters and stuff. How they look. The new paint jobs on them look awesome. And they look like it's right out of the 3100s, even though it's supposed to be earlier. Someone's bound to complain. Oh, we painted these action figures. I have a whole box full of action figures. It's alright. I bought them, so years ago. So yeah. So yeah, they're definitely different. It's kind of funny that we kind of established that Kira and Kira's there with Bashir and Molly. Not O'Brien. What happened to him? I don't know. You might ask, where's O'Brien? So yeah, what they were saying on Trekkers, they were trying to guess the before I go, they were trying to guess the characters of Prodigy and how the girl could be. If it's really 2383, how could the ship have been captured 17 years ago? But actually, did the aliens say that though? Go back to the episode and watch Kobayashi Maru episode again, because I don't think they actually said the diviner guy, bad guy, had the ship yet 17 years ago. He was looking for something, but we don't know what it was. The element or whatever. So he didn't have the ship yet. So go back and watch the episode. No, he didn't have it yet. He was looking for something else. So if it's time travel, it probably isn't. Then it's the Abrams universe, because the nacelles look like the Abrams nacelles. It probably isn't, and cynically, from a Mark Card standpoint, he hasn't watched it, but I'm figuring I've known him for 40 years almost, 35 years almost, that he would say something to the effect of, well, they probably just didn't care. Probably, they probably meant to say 2393 or even 2403, but just forgot. And they're just like, oh, they're there, right? In this part of that universe. Chakotay, and yeah, they went there, and therefore they're there. And they built the ship, and there it is. Yeah, that's probably all that's going on. Is they just forgot. They just didn't think about it. They're just, yeah, we don't have the same cast that's writing Lower Decks. The Lower Decks people wouldn't make that mistake. A year and a half earlier than that, they wouldn't make that mistake. They'd be like, no, we have to have this right because we actually have a basic dual Trekkie on the set. The producer and director, they know what they're doing. They're not going to screw that up. But yeah, on the newer one, they don't have the same thing. It's probably, if it is time travel, it's weird. In all they had to do was move it up a decade, and it would have fit. Because if they just said 2393, then it'd be like, oh, okay. They went back, and it's been like 20 years. Even 2403, like I said, even during this series, it would have made more sense. Then they could have just said, well, it's been 20 years, who knows? Chakotay went back and came forward. Either that or the Kazon built the ship to resemble a Federation ship. It never was. That could be another twist. The Protostar is actually just created by aliens to look like Federation ship, and it isn't really. It's like that ship from the episode Hope and Fear, whatever. Yeah, Hope and Fear. I was one other fan one. It wasn't me, but it was somebody else. And now on, they find an advanced Starfleet ship that turns out to be an aliens ship that he's built to look like a Starfleet ship. That could be what they're doing. So it's another one of those guys. They built the ship to look like a Federation ship, and it isn't really. That would be a way to get out of that. I mean, these other guys built it, and yeah. But here in this story, it's all speculation. By the time, yeah, I know, these 7 episodes here wrap, that'll be over 2 that season, and it'll probably be around the same time. So, yeah, and it probably will turn out that it's not time travel, or they forgot, or something, or the diviner was just wrong. It wasn't 17 Earth years ago; it was alien years ago. Could be alien years. Could be that their planet has an orbit that's closer than Earth. Like, if they were living on Venus, which is not possible, or above Venus, their typical year would be only about 270 days. So it'd be less than. So a Venusian would actually be an adult before a human would be. and if you're a Martian, it would be twice that, because you're over 1.5 AU out, and you're 1.3 to 1.5 AU. And a Martian would be of age at 10 instead of 18 or something. 8 or 9. Whereas a Venusian it'd be quicker, so it'd be like, yeah, they would be older. They would seem older, yeah. So they would be 25 when they would be 18. But yeah, Venusians and Martians, of course, there aren't any of those. These are for probes that melted on Venus, and another probe that Many probes went to Mars and froze. Some of them are still running around. They're robots. Robot probes. Yeah, so. Anyway, so, yeah. The Unikitty. The Unikitty. It's actually a tie figure. Or, yeah. Oddly enough, it has a CE on the bottom. Referring to... But how could it... doesn't have batteries, does it? It's weird. And it is a tie. A tie thing on his butt. That's all. So yeah. Yeah, so it doesn't matter what Prodigy is actually up to with the ship, but as it progresses, we'll find out more about that. I had nothing to do with writing Prodigy, although it's similar to the Mike and Jay story. So a lot of the elements of it, they find a ship and put it together, is very similar to Galaxy, Star Trek Galaxy. Rich Evans and Mike Staloska story. They clearly cribbed it. They're famous enough, I guess, so they cribbed it. They even had a Lower Decks episode, the finale, which referred to them taking the hull off the ship from their Star Trek Discovery spoof. Let's remove the hull, the ship later. They did that joke. They did that. So they're watching. Both shows are watching Red Letter Media, and they're watching us too. Discovery with anomalies and Cillians and mirror Cillian guy that's clearly Kal Kat running around and threatening the galaxy. What? Oh, Kal Kat. Well, his name isn't Kal Kat, but it's Kal Kat. Or it's Kabufkin, which is funny because then the Klingbuff, because then like if it's him, then he has it wouldn't be technically him either, because yeah, they didn't explain that. They're probably not going to. Of course, Booker ran off, but Booker was the cute one. Yeah. He turned to phrase in the first season. Oh my. Oh, yeah, Discovery is still kind of weak because it's got like... The captain is still not up to snuff. The other ones were. It's not... Cisco was the most badass captain. Next to Kirk, and then Janeway, and then Picard, who was a diplomat. He was never really a badass fighter captain guy. Yeah, he wouldn't have gone in duking out the aliens. Like the only time he ever hit anybody was that one episode where he went to Risa and got a little drunk. He hit the Ferengi guy in the face. It's the only time he ever really did that. Well, then there's the movies where he became a superhero like Kirk. But that was the movies. Yeah, then he was hitting things, shooting Borg and stuff. Before then, he wasn't really. Picard wasn't really into that. The Borg. I, Captain Kirk, will beam onto the ship and single-handedly defeat them using my charisma. I will do it. So here's the little mirror universe. Kal Kat. That's 10D, whose face paint has been fixed. Her face paint has been fixed officially. That 10D and Rutherford, at some point recently apparently, they got married. This is LaForge. They're not married on Lower Decks, so no, they're still cadets. But eventually they will get married. That'll be an item. They already implied that the other guy, Welmer, and the other one are already married. So, well, in this universe, they 10D here and him get together. Well, Welmer and Mariner ended up together. And now we have Miral and Molly O'Brien. We don't know where Chief O'Brien is. Maybe he's on the expedition that's not there. Maybe it's Earth. I don't know. They both don't seem to be around. They're not dead, though. Just don't seem to be around. Yeah, so... and yeah, in this season, there's no Tam and Kestra, because I didn't really want to have them involved in the other story. It didn't make sense. Although we do figure out a way to bring back Koloth and Cyrano and Mike and Rich immediately. Establish that, okay, yeah, the cube saved them, because otherwise it seems like Dax and the other one in the robot murdered them by sending them into the space time warp. But if Q immediately went and they were just back 3 months later, like, okay, so they weren't killed. They were zapped back into the universe 2 or 3 months later. Okay, January 11th. The set of Fate Protects Fools Part 1. This is the scene on the planet where they encounter the stuff. Who's directing this one? I'm directing it. Oh, goody. I guess. Oh, anyway, so yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah, so let's just go. Like the story immediately, there's like these giant statues behind them. Yeah, this story illustrates the fallen ones there. These are actually wrestling figures. There's a bunch in the way over there, and there were 3 extras that were painted up to look like elder gods in the background. Lovecraftian elder gods. So yeah. They're not really, though. They're not really gods. False gods. Anyway, so we're going to do another scene. Yeah, because a lot of footage on here. So, we're going to do another scene, and continuing with thing, let's go. So, this is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster. We're done for the evening. And on the set of this adventure, there will be no marked cards on Thursday because of the pandemic outbreak that's even worse, but we're here in the studio. Yeah, they're masked up and all that, but there's no one else up here right now, so don't need to wear a mask if no one else up here. Yeah, so all precautions are being taken on the set. All the voice actors, all of them together. There's only one person up here. So yes, but yeah, going over this part from the blogs, and now we're into the blog part. And this is a blogger who is going on about angels and demons, something like a Dan Brown book, Brown without an E, and also some other books from that time period. And yeah, so in for the evening. It's after 9. At least on the clock on the camera is probably wrong, but it's just after 9. Yeah, so it's funny that we have Kal Kat, the Judeo-Christian person, going on angels and demons. It's kind of funny, magic. Yeah, we don't advocate doing anything weird like that. So just yeah, don't mess with that kind of thing. So it's fiction. This is fiction. This stuff is meant to be someone's opinion in a blog from way back in 2013 that was adapted into this scene here. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. Yeah, and we knew that the other characters were kind of into those occult practices in the other episodes, but the characters were not the actual writers of the show. No, of course not. But yeah, it's interesting that they're doing dialogue about that, and also interesting that I painted up some of those wrestler guys to be the giants in the background, because otherwise, yeah, it kind of illustrates what they're seeing. They don't see the figures in the background; they're just there, kind of lurking in the background, and I think that actually adds a lot of depth to the scene. It's probably what the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans did with statues and things, statuary, whatever, to imply some kind of ominous, fearful god creatures in the background, kind of thing. It's spooky, sort of. So this is kind of a Halloween-y sort of darker story. Yeah, it's not funny necessarily. it's a thinking story about how like alien watchers and the occult and all that work, and how to stop that, how to defeat it, stuff like that, and the kind of stuff like that. It's kind of cool as a story concept. So yeah, but yeah, they're just discussing stuff that's far out, pretty far out, beyond what that other story was actually done later. That other Vita Colavito story was done later, and so it had a lot of these key events in it as well. So you've heard something like that before in the two-parter Incident at Eldani, but this is a further exploration of the topics that were going on in Incident at Eldani as a 7-part miniseries. So you get to see the whole 7-part miniseries, which is actually kind of disconnected from the other story. The only thing that's similar is ancient giants, ancient aliens, ancient alien theory, religious theory, stuff like that. And critical race theory is thrown in there too, because that guy was a college professor guy, so it's thrown in there as well. He was a college student, so a college graduate. I'm assuming he has some kind of a master's degree in something, probably history. I don't. So yeah, I never took that class. I took something similar though. Yeah, in college. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. There was. Let's see, what did I take it? I know Evergreen back in the day had race and gender studies of a kind, Latin studies and stuff like that. Took that. I figured, hey, there's a large Latin population. As well figure out what they're up to, just to make sure. Don't say anything bad, So I took Latin. I also took Spanish in San Jose State. I also let's see. I took English Lit a lot, a bunch of English Lit. I majored in English Lit in 94 at San Jose State, and in 98 a grad degree in English Lit, and then took journalism in up to 2008. Got a degree in journalism. Evergreen was general studies with an emphasis on English and journalism, so kind of just did the same thing. Took Korean studies, took a language, Spanish. I'm not too good at it, because I was at martial arts school that did Korean, so I learned some Korean stuff. Really rusty at that, and so it was a while back. So yeah, and religious studies courses and stuff, and go to church, and it's kind of funny to write about these just some of the characters in this are atheists. So it's kind of interesting to do that. Some of them aren't, and some of them are in between. Yeah, so it's interesting that they're doing that in the story. It's an interesting back and forth going on. So yeah, so the gender studies, race studies. What else was there? Propaganda class. That was interesting. Stuff like that. Or they train you how all the techniques work in the propaganda class. Anyway, so not really, but a little bit. Anyway, so yeah, I won't ramble on too much. It's kind of done. So I'm kind of done for the evening. So whatever the dailies look like, that's what they are. Can't change it. You have to go back and film that part. Hopefully not. Anyway, so that's it for the evening. And yeah, so we have date the 12th. And we're going to do some more footage. Mainly them standing still while we aim the camera at them. Yeah, so starting with Rutherford, page 11, top. Yeah. Always seem to be evening shoots. They always are anyway, so it doesn't matter really, I guess. Easy per se. So, I just completed Act 1 of Fate Protects Fools, page 20. There's 3 acts in it. At the rate the blocking is done, it appears that it will be a little over an hour, maybe 80 minutes, just for the way it's blocked. There don't seem to be any transition wipes, which is weird. I guess we'll just throw in fake ones. Sure, there aren't any transition wipes. Yeah, so it was apparently done as a blog, so it'll appear as a blog, which is fine. Yeah, so we have all of our cast has come back into the fold in the 15 pages or so that was this part, and it is the 12th, and we are continuing with the production. What's kind of going on is that in the original, when we did the original Colavito blog version, we kept the different race names and religious names and things the same. But in this version, it's apparently the Cillian version. It's the version from the Fallen Ones. So they've changed all these names around, and so we have like Valley Religious and Remel and Clinzai, and representing different place names and race names in the story. There's probably like a key code or something. Near as I can tell from what we wrote years ago, a couple of years ago now, the original story, it appears that churchers are supposed to be some version of Christianity. The Valley Religious are evangelical Christians. The Pine Hill people are apparently just anybody that is from America or the U.S. or not. But also the Federation is the U.S. in the story. The Elvins are the Jews. The Remel are the Romans, Latins, Italians, sometimes other people. But then sometimes the Arizona people are mentioned as if that's another people, which it isn't. It's a state, which is weird. So then you have the state in the United States. Then you have never been there, or I've been through there when I was a kid, yeah, but not all the way. It's parts of it. But then there's yeah, some other names. They mention Elijah and they mention the Savior. I think there's supposed to be versions of Jesus or God. They changed it so that it doesn't offend anybody. So it throws it all off. I think the other versions of some of the Pine Hillians are Africans in it. Some of them Remels are. And the Clinzai are the Chinese or the Russians. Chinese or the Russians. That's confusing. And later on, they'll have the Romy characters that'll show up, and they'll be sort of like the Russians too. The Rus are also mentioned in the story. The names have all been changed, so that when you see this, it's not offending anybody. The names have been changed for those groups. But yeah, the color code that I just said doesn't match officially. They go all over the place. So it kind of does. Yeah. So equal opportunity offends everybody. It is interesting that it's topical even today in 2021, 2 years later. The story here so far is based on the 2013 blog on even back in 2013, 8 years ago, they were dealing with the same kind of thing. The early burgeoning version of the Me Too movement hadn't started yet. The SJW movement hadn't started yet. Other people, Trump, they didn't have that yet. It wouldn't be until 2016 that you hear about him. Offhandedly as Cottle in the story. Yeah, so so when they get to the grave robber story, it's 2016. So yeah, the 7 books take place roughly over 2013, 2014 for book 1. 2015 book 2, I think, 3, and then I think the 2016 ones are the grave robber story and the sword story. And then it's into 2017 and 2018, a little bit 2019 for the last 2. Because that's rushed because they wanted to get to the space giants. In the original blogs, they don't actually find any space giants. It's actually written a lot like it's a blog, so they don't actually solve anything. They don't find anything. It's not a novel. It was written like one, but it's not really because they don't really find things. So in order to illustrate they were talking about giants and fallen ones. I painted up these wrestler figures that were left over that I bought. These cheap imitation wrestler figures. They're imitations. They're knockoffs. And painted them to look like they're giant fallen ones in the background. And they're not paying attention to them. They're just in the back. They're not supposed to be alive. They're not supposed to be animated. They're just statues of fallen ones in the background. Which gives a feel of this first part as, oh, it's kind of creepy and weird. Very, very Greco-Roman weirdness going. So yeah, there's these stories and themes in here that are addressed in the whole thing. They keep saying racism, even though they don't technically say anything racist in the story, because we don't want to get in trouble on YouTube. But they talk about it. They talk about it. Yeah. So, and even back then, for some reason, this bizarre white majority of conservatives, hyper conservatives especially, seeming to think that they're going to become minorities and that they're being persecuted by the people that they're persecuting, is a bizarre disconnect in reality, whereas they're not being persecuted for being white and rich. That's ridiculous. Yeah, and they're not being martyred. And yeah, and they don't know what they've been smoking. They've been smoking something. They've been on something. I don't know, or snorting or something. But yeah. And yeah, there's this Canadian. Not that the current President Biden isn't flaky at some point. So yes, but not nearly as bad as Trump. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, so enough of that. Anyway, fine. It's the 14th. It's not day 14. It's day 3 technically. We're at page 25 in the middle of it, and yeah, the Cillian Earth and the different versions of Cillian in this sometimes represent white, sometimes represent America, sometimes represent Earth. Yeah, when I changed a bunch of names around, kind of confused it. So, but you can kind of tell in the story that I left some of the lines, they're whites and non-whites, just so you know what was going on when they're discussing the race theory in here. Yes, so you get a if you watch this story, and you should because it's awesome. But there's a sophomore version of critical race exploration theory, American studies in this course here. So you get like it's not the grad level version. It's not the actual version. It's not called critical race. It's the sophomore version. It's the undergrad version. But yeah, it's prevalent in this story in the dialogue that they were talking about critical race pretty much. As it applies to ancient aliens and America Unearthed, which they call in here America Unhinged. And Scott Wolter and them guys. Because it's not defamation and slander because they are nuts. So it's not. It isn't. Everyone knows. So yeah. It's a given that whoever produces these shows is. They don't care if they're acting nuts. They like that. So that's not defamation. Not at all. Not at all. It's not even slander. It's just no. They're nuts. They know they know they are. So yeah. So we have a story that's on about race. Also the the characters are discussing the nature of the show as a spoof. So it's parody. It's protected speech. It's parody. Yeah, they're not actually racist. They're discussing racism that's bad. So testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing. Testing. Stop. So yes, this is Kal Kat. The set of this is day 4, I guess. Saturday, 15th. This is some of the footage from day 4 with a whole day shoot. We're 10 pages away from finishing shooting this one story. So there's a lot of goofy stuff about giants in here because it's about space giants, the fallen ones. That's what it's about. They finally got to the space giants toward the end of the story. It's had a while getting there. Yeah, there's all kinds of references to the episodes of America Unearthed and Ancient Aliens, and there's the I remember clearly the episode with the fake Lorraine Cross thing from American Earth and the Arizona Tucson artifacts. That was a funny one. Wasn't supposed to be funny, but it was funny. And it's funny that the story's going into that. Apparently there's a lot of trinkets over there in Arizona, in the Southwest. A lot of trinket shops with a lot of fake stuff. And a lot of it's in museums down there. Because they don't care. Oh, let's just... There's a museum for alien visitors in New Mexico, for crying out loud. Done up like an alien, like, sci-fi thing. Come on. It's like... Yeah. So, yeah. Also, the giants creationism thing, the idea that the cubit and the span in the time of the Bible, there was no empirical measurement yet. They hadn't developed that yet. So if David was only 5'2", a Goliath who was about 6'8" would appear to be a giant to him. And that's probably more accurate, as Goliath was just 6'8", not 9 feet. They're basing the 9 feet on something else, because it had to be taller than a 6-foot person that was describing it. But no, David was short. They described him as short. He wasn't tall as king. The king before him. He wasn't very tall, so yeah. And that's fine. But yeah, King David. So anyway, those are from the other stuff going on. So the other stuff about the ancient aliens people were clearly trying to make it sound like Native Americans and native peoples from the Stone Age and whatever couldn't think of anything unless white people were there. It's kind of racist, and they were prejudiced, and they were like doing stuff like that. Like, oh, this cross thing that was obviously fake that has a dinosaur on it, a freaking dinosaur on it, a dinosaur's head. That obviously is fake. Come on, somebody probably made that like a year ago or in the 90s during Jurassic Park. That's probably when I made it. Or to sell trinkets in the shop because that was the one Arizona dinosaur they had claim to fame on, so made out of lead. It's like when they found the lead ingots off the pirate ship. It's obviously lead, and they were totally gold, and they didn't let us get them. No, they were lead. That they didn't want lead ingots. Ballast. If they were gold bars, they would have gone back for them. Come on. But yeah, they had a bunch of stuff like that. Because he wanted to prove that there was a Merovingian line, which he stole from Dan Brown, the writer, and who stole it from another previous guy. Yeah, the Holy Blood, Holy Grail guy from the 80s. Von Daniken stole all that other stuff from somewhere else. So Sakalos is just doing, that stuff. Anyway, so it's fun to make fun of it here. Calling Scott Walter Sinclair is funny, and also the Cal person knows some of his relatives that in Minnesota are by marriage related to the Ullmans, and so this guy, he was like, his relatives have talked about the Kensington Runestone. They actually know it's a fake, and the guy put it there. Their great uncle put it there in the 1800s. So he carved it and put it there. And it's in the Duluth Museum. So there it is. Anyway, so that's... No, that can't be true. It has to be a real artifact from Vikings, proving Vikings were there, even though Vikings would have been there. Vikings would have been there anyway. That's not telling us anything we don't already know about Minnesota. There are Vikings there. It's not a secret. That's not like a big revelation. Ooh, there were Vikings. Their football team is called the Vikings. Come on. Anyway, so. Fate protects fools. Little children. Starships named Enterprise. Which is not the new thing on the ship's plaque. That's dumb. That is Riker in one of the early Star Trek episodes. And this is the wrap on Fate Protects Fools, a day before Martin Luther King's birthday. So, I don't think we can put it together in another day and have it ready for tomorrow. I mean, not during the day, but we'll see. It could be Monday or Tuesday. It won't be tonight. We have completed principal photography on the pilot of Season 2, which is part of a 7-part miniseries Starship Strange Worlds, The Fallen Ones. It's actually called, I believe they're calling it Starship Locations, The Fallen Ones. And it's Strange Worlds, although it technically isn't. So yeah, there's something different about it. Yeah. And it's a version of the story that, yeah, and there's a lot of, yeah, it's a version of an already existing the Fallen Ones story based on that. Not to be confused with the other Fallen Ones, which came out around the same time. There was some other author writing about something similar. This is a parody book thing of a parody. It's very meta, and yeah, Capterra, Flodai, and all these other names were changed from names of Alien Earth and all that stuff. Were changed from names of actual real countries, races, and people, and you can kind of tell who they were just from looking at it. But that's very Star Trek. Roddenberry would have done that. He would have been like, okay, well, this is this Native American planet, and we just made up a name. Like, go to this Native American planet, or go to the Yangs and the Coms planet, or go to the planet where the guy is black on one side and white on the other. We'll go to that planet, or we'll go to the Nazi planet. But in the case of the Nazi planet, what it was with that one was aliens had adopted the cultural contamination from a Starfleet captain who went crazy and decided to adopt the fascist Nazis as his thing, planet. That's what happened. The Mob Planet, a similar idea. The Chicago Mobs of the 20s book was brought to a 2020 book was brought to this planet where the aliens and the crew blended in, and it became part of their culture, which is kind of weird because you think after like 100 years they wouldn't be in the 20s anymore. They would advance to some other point, which I addressed in the Silly Trek version, in the Fontana and Clerks, when they went back to that same planet. But in the Silly Trek version, they go back to that planet like 100 years later, and yes, it is different. The mobs have changed into more of a biker gang mob kind of thing, with more cartels and biker gangs and stuff. But you figured they probably would have gone further than that. The Nazi planet was not visited, not directly. There was a TV planet several times. Capterra is mentioned in here. It's one of the TV planets. The TV planet story stemmed from way back in the 80s when we were in, I guess you'd call it, well, there wasn't really a film class or a drama class necessarily at Pine Hill. It was too small. There was drama and there was watching movies, and that was the extent of it. So and so we had the one time we watched Alien, yeah. So in 2001 and stuff like that. So yeah. Yeah, we had that. So it was around the same time that Ted Turner, who was then sort of like an early version of the Murdoch brothers. But he was more of an entertainment mogul guy. He was one of the first cable guys. CNN was the first cable network to cable news network. CNN, cable news network. But Ted Turner decided that he didn't like black and white movies, so he colorized them. So the joke there was that he had the gag there was that he was colorizing old movies but making them look really uncanny and weird, because you can't just colorize old movie prints. It does not look good. They didn't have the technology in the 80s to do that properly, and now they could, but why should they? But yeah, he did that. So it affected the Silly Trek cast. We were playing a role-playing game. We decided that as children with Q powers, that we would have the ability to go to the TV planet and stop him. So we go to the TV planet, and we basically nuke the planet. We kind of blew it up. And so in Silly Trek, the planet's still there. Of course, things regenerate in Silly Trek. The planet regenerated, and just regenerated in other places, and itself as well. So we go to in Fontana and Clerks, we return to the TV planet. But we already had a hint that it was out there already, because we'd been to Capterra, and we'd been to Caterconus, which appeared to be colonies of the TV planet that had survived the bombardment by the Cillians. We were actually kind of evil if we were blowing up planets. But nobody died. They would just blow up, and like paste would go everywhere, and cream pies and stuff. And we had no idea that seemed sexual at the time. Cream shooting out of guys. Yeah, this seemed a little screwed up. But yes, But yeah, yeah, the Cillian powers. We figured something that they did address in Next Generation eventually. I think it was season 6 or 7. They had an episode where they had a Q teenager, Amanda, who shows up. She's got Q teenage powers, and she's kind of a threat to the Q, but not to the ship, really. In that story, Q teenager. And later on in Voyager, we had an old Q who wanted to kill himself. It's spurred on by a depressed 23-year-old writer, Ken Pillar's son, who wrote the story. He just wanted to write about Q cacking himself. That's all it was originally. It was there. That's all it was. He just wanted to Q die. Angsty. It's the 90s. It's like, dude, no, that's stupid. No, we're gonna do it as an episode because it's Ken Pillar's the son. He can do whatever he wants. So he wrote an episode of Star Trek. Q Civil War story arc with the Q lady and all that became one of his things. Pillar's other stuff was a little better, but the father guy. He went on to do other things that were better. The father guy, producer, I think he's dead now. Not the kid, but the father guy. I think the kid wanted to do a Dead Zone, I think. So yeah, he did other things, but yeah. So there's Q children. If you figure like that episode where Riker was given Q powers briefly, just to give him Q powers. Q was probably not supposed to do that. We took that story literally and decided, what would happen if Q gave us powers? We would keep them. Because why wouldn't we? So we would be the Mozarts of time and space. Be running around and going like, well, we can make our own realm and go in it and stuff. So that's kind of what's going on here. The story takes place in 3190. The whole story. The wedding part takes place in 2403. But everything else takes place in 3190. And yeah, they will get home. Spoilers. Whatever. They will get home. Yeah, we're not going to leave them there. They'll solve the story. It's a slow burn pilot. It's not a lot going on. And there's nothing wrong with that. The other new modern Abrams Star Trek shows don't do thinking episodes. We do. And following this story guidelines is kind of fun. Yeah, they are faking it for the Oscars, but we're not faking it here. This is not going to get high votes and ratings or anything. It's just decided to film this bizarre story about various conspiracy theories and various conspiracy elements that Kal Kat and Mark Scars have often discussed. But this story does it in a nutshell, so it puts it all out there. Especially the premise that a government cover-up is kind of impossible, given how like over the top and triplicate the government is, and they just blatantly do things that are skeezy just to do them because they can. Otherwise, if a government conspiracy was real, they could do stuff that you don't, because they can't hide it. It's the internet. So yeah. The space alien conspiracies and stuff. Yeah, didn't occur to them that years ago the Roswell incident, which started all of it, was just a crashed weather balloon that had spy stuff on it. But it's like, no, it had to be aliens because I can't explain it. Yeah. And the Kensington Stone, which the Ullmans know where it's from, but they put it there in the 1800s, made it look like a land claim stone. Yeah, it wasn't. But yes, and that fake Lorraine cross that's mentioned in the story is obviously a fake from a gift shop in Arizona. Yeah, it obviously is. And to a certain extent, though, with these shows that used to exist and still kind of do in some form or another, with fake artifacts, is they know they're fake. The people doing Oak Island know it's fake and there's nothing there. The people doing Treasure Hunter back in the day, they know it wasn't. They aren't going to find any gold. They know that. And even when they find some gold, some other country, that other country's going to swoop in and take that because it's their gold. Treasure hunters aren't going to get it. So yeah, the leading that's at the bottom of the ship, yeah, and the silly cross with a dinosaur on it. The cross had a dinosaur on it. obviously it's fake. It would have made more sense if he used a prop one that didn't have a dinosaur on it, and said like, okay, well, this is another one that has just a cross with like markings on it. It looks old. That would have been more convincing, but it has a dinosaur on it. Like it came from the frickin' dinosaur exhibit thing because they like Jurassic Park. Yeah, it's from the 90s, the 1990s. And they wanted to, they have dinosaurs there. So well, they have them in Utah too, with the dinosaurs up there. And those are cooler because you can get them like you can get a velociraptor one. That'd be cooler because velociraptor is cooler than Seismosaurus. Seismosaurus is cool too, but cooler than a Stonosaurus, which is a velociraptor or a T-Rex. A T-Rex would also be cool, but Stonosaurus just sits there. But yes, yeah. Why does it have to be aliens? And there's all of these racial undertones with these kind of guys because they're like oh, only aliens could have taught Native Americans and ancient Stone Age man how to build stuff, and Africans and stuff because only aliens could have done it, or white people, or space giants. It's like ridiculous. It's like no, they were creative and they were able to do it themselves. The Egyptians weren't white guys. Come on. and the Native Americans, they weren't white guys either. They were Native Americans. They were kind of copper skinned a little bit, tan. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, and it's funny how like the European Dark Ages is always mentioned as the Dark Ages, when in fact that age did not exist in China and Japan. They didn't have the Dark Ages then. It was later for them. So. Yeah, it was later, and yeah, they didn't have the plague at the same time Europe did. They didn't have that other stuff at the same time because they were clear across the world, and yeah, the Americans didn't have it either. And when they go on about the Vikings and all that, this is actually part of the story, and they go on about the Vikings, and yeah, they go like, oh, the Vikings discovered America before Columbus. Of course they did. That's not even a mystery. It's like they made this whole show. Like on Earth, Columbus, Like I knew that. I learned that in high school. We learned that in high school. Yeah, Columbus discovered America before Spain. It never occurred to us that anybody would think that they were the only ones that were there. Clearly, the Native Americans were already there. So clearly, somebody was here before Columbus was. Before Europeans was. Clearly, somebody came here. So they're right there. They're all the red-haired guys up in the north. What are those things? Vikings that blended in with the Indians. Okay. Makes sense. And then they did other DNA tests and things like that. Discovered that was the case. I think there was some tribe in like Cherokee or Navajo or something. It was one of those tribes that they did a DNA analysis when DNA got better. They found out that they actually were a little bit white. There was a little white in them from interbreeding, from being in the, part of the trappers and stuff. It was kind of cool. Also, there was a famous Oregon tall Indian guy. It wasn't a giant, just a tall Indian guy. They found the remains in Oregon, and they thought about that. They put him back later, but yeah, the Utsi man or whatever, and he was half Native American and something else, so he was apparently part something else too. So they were constantly going back and forth. It doesn't occur to them. Yeah, come on. They figured it out. They figured out how to do things. And just because we don't know who put the mounds in the Midwest doesn't mean that all the mounds aren't known. So they went on about the mound builders myths and stuff that Clavito did. And the mounds out here, there's a couple of them out here, are Ohlone. So we know who built them. Ohlone built them. And they built little tree rings and things around them and stuff. Little, almost like their version of a Stonehenge, but it was a wood hinge. Kind of cool. So they have that up there. Go up there and see the Ohlone mounds. And it's on somebody's property, so I won't be doing that. But but it does exist. There's 2 or 3 of them up there. Yeah. So I have been to the Henrico Park, which does have a cool mountain up there. I've been to that. But yes, other than that, that park sucks. But that Indian Mountain was cool, with the tree on top. Like, I saw it from a distance. But yes, so yeah, they built it. They're probably meant to be ceremonial sites for like worshiping their gods and stuff, because they're like out in the open. That's probably what they were. Yeah, you would just go up on a hill. Feel like people go on a hill now. Go up on a hill. We'll see stuff up there. Okay. So yeah. So they're not giving them credit for having done stuff. They want to say it's aliens or somebody else. Or, this is Sinclair. The guy's not even, Scott Wolter's not even a Sinclair. He just thinks he is. The Merovingian line, which was from a book. He's not. He's just they probably know. They probably know that Jake is up. Because even his current show is like, nobody watches that. Who believes that stuff? Some of them do, though, I imagine. But yeah, silly. Anyway, so that is this is Fate Protects Fools, taken from Fate Protects Fools, Little Children and Starships Named Enterprise, Fate Protects Fools, and the finale is called Fate Protects Fools 2. There are 7 episodes. We just finished 1. So what's going on from there? But yeah, the next one is next. But yeah, we'll put this one together. It's very, very interesting Star Trek Discovery era. The Discovery era for this season. We can do other seasons because unlike Fuller's anthology idea that never got to fruition, we're going to do that. So maybe next season we'll do something from another era entirely. That's we want to do too much time travel though, because then it's weird. But this makes sense because where they put them, it's not really technically time travel. It's more like Q put them there to test them in the future and then bring them back. So what they're doing in the future isn't going to affect anything. But what they learn in the future will change their destiny. Ooh, yes. And it's funny that most of the cast are actually white characters, and that they're against the supremacist bad guy characters. But yes, it's funny also that they keep saying they don't read Klinzai. I think they mean Aramaic because they're changing names around because they don't want to offend anybody. But there's other Klingons there that should be able to translate the Klinzai for them. Maybe they don't want to. And maybe Koloth's like, I'm not going to translate it. I'm going to let you all suffer. Yes, Koloth and Cyrano are the younger Koloth and Cyrano from the other time. They're out of time, literally. They come back, so they're in this. Star Trek. So that's it for. Yeah.